Good morning, Panthers. Welcome. I'd like to start with our panel members introducing themselves.
Hi, my name is Ariana Martinez.
It's okay to tell a little bit about yourself. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a Master's of Social Work from University of Southern California. Graduated with Cognitive Psychology from UC Irvine.
You need the mic.
Sorry. I was told to use the mic. And I graduated from Benicia High School in 2008, so I am an alum with you guys. And I'm currently working for Contra Costa County Children and Family Services. I train all our new social workers.
Hi, everybody. My name's Amy Hirsch. I also graduated from Benicia High, though a few years earlier, class of '96. There's a lot that's still the same. Mr. Wheat is here. He was here when I was here. I asked him where his golf cart was. He says he used to drive around in a golf cart. But apparently he walks now. I have 2 kids in the district, a 7th grader and a 4th grader. I actually did what many of you probably plan to do, and that was get out of Benicia after high school. But then I spent the whole time trying to get back. So I got back and I came back because of our schools. Our schools are great. I work part-time as an attorney, and I've taught in the classroom. I've taught as an adjunct professor for paralegal students, and I am super excited to be here today. Thank you.
Oh, I'll use the same mic. Good morning. Thank you for having me. My name is Ali Mansouri. I'm the father of one of your peers, Hannah. I don't know if any of you know Hannah. So glad to see all of you. I'm a little older than everybody here, class of '86 from high school. I went to UC Berkeley as an undergrad. I earned simultaneous degrees in math and chemistry. And then I stayed at UC Berkeley and I earned a PhD in nuclear engineering. I worked 5 years in industry where I worked on the Yucca Mountain project, which was supposed to be the first repository in the nation for nuclear waste. And I also worked on the nation's intercontinental ballistic missiles, assuring their accuracy as we were trying to be targeting the other side of the world. I decided that I was not a good fit for my first career, and I had been doing a lot of volunteer work, a lot of social issues that were important to me, so I went to medical school. And in the process, I also taught at San Jose State. I taught calculus, so if any of you have calculus problems with your A/B class, come by, I'll help you. And I went to medical school in Albany, New York, and I've been a physician for 19 years now. I work as a hospital medicine physician at Kaiser, Walnut Creek. During the process, I also worked in the Air Force. I was an Air Force officer. I did radiation studies with U-2 pilots. I don't know if any of you have heard of the U-2 spy plane. I made a briefing to the generals that altered the flight path of the U-2. So a little bit about me. I can tell you more if you like. Talk to Hannah. We can meet.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So the way we're going to do questions is our students are going to ask some questions. They have a microphone. And we would like each candidate to answer the question. We have about 45 to 50 minutes, and I will try and keep everybody on schedule. So how about we start with the first question?
Oh, wait, I don't have a microphone. All right, hello. Why do you care about Benicia schools, and why do you want to become a board member?
Am I going first every time?
How about we always start with Ariana and go to the right? Yep. No pressure.
Thank you.
No, we could switch off. That's a good idea. Let's switch off. Yep.
All right. I care for Benicia schools because I'm a product of Benicia schools. My sisters both went through Benicia schools, and I am currently a community member of Benicia schools, so I really feel passionate about the schools. I love coming to all of the performances here. I love supporting. I was in color guard. I love supporting the band. I also appreciate the community that we live in, that we would have parades, and I'd see you guys on First Street doing fundraising and things like that. So I just really value you guys and Benicia schools as part of our community here.
Much like Ariana, I am also a product of Benicia schools. I attended here K through 12, and I deeply care about our schools. I had a great education here in Benicia, and I I moved back here with my family so that my kids could attend Benicia schools. I volunteer a lot in the schools, especially at Matthew Turner. I sit on the site council. I see the schools in action. I know the families, and we have an amazing community. So the reason I'm running is to provide support, to provide a voice that I think would be valuable to the board, which is the voice of somebody who currently has kids in the schools and is active in the schools. I think the board should reflect the diversity that our community has, diversity of experience. And so, I'm here for you guys. I'm here to make sure that you get what you need to be successful in whatever it is that you decide to do.
Thank you for the question. So I have 2 daughters in Benicia school systems. I already told you about one. I have a 5th grader as well. My daughters are the world to me, as I'm sure you are to your parents. So when I see your faces, I see my own kids. I have 2 of my compatriots from the New York City trip I just saw walk in. I'm so glad to see them. I want to do this because I want to be an advocate for you. I want to use the education and the life experiences that I've had to make sure that when your parents or you have a concern, that concern is heard appropriately, not dismissed. I have the gravitas with my education that I can go toe-to-toe with anybody. I can go and talk to your math teachers about your calculus problems. I know I can understand all the science you're learning. I have that background. I'm also a family physician trained. I've gone through the entirety of a human experience, from taking care of pregnancies to delivering babies, to taking care of pediatrics population, to treating mental health, preventive health. And right now I work as a hospitalist where I take care of really ill people. I've held people's hands as they've died, taken their last breath. So I understand. I have empathy for the entire human experience. But given that I'm in the stage of life where I have a daughter in your position, it is important to me what you're going through. And I want to make sure that your voices and your concerns are heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to question 2.
All right, hello. My question is, what are your biggest priorities as a board member?
I'll take this one first. Okay. My biggest priorities as a board member. I'll just speak plainly. I want you to be happy. I want you to feel that you belong in your community. I want you to feel that sense of belonging. I want you to feel safe. I think that based on my own kids being in the schools and interacting with the community, safety is of huge concern right now. And I want you to feel that you are well prepared for whatever it is you decide to do once you leave Benicia. Whether you go get a job, whether you go into a trade, or whether you go to college. I feel that I had that. When I graduated from Benicia High, I went down to UCLA, and I went to school with kids who went to some elite private schools. But I really felt that my education here, I was competitive, and I excelled there. And I want the same for you. And so my biggest priority as a trustee is to ensure that you have that and that you have opportunities.
Thank you. So my priorities for you, for all of us, first, as I mentioned, advocacy. I want you to have an advocate, a real advocate for your concerns. My other priority is to assure your mental and physical health. Both. As a physician, those are very important to me. We're seeing rises in suicide among teens, rises in anxiety, depression. This isn't the time for you. We don't want any of you to go through that, or at least alleviate. We want to alleviate what you might be going through. Those are very difficult things. I know a lot of you probably know somebody who's depressed or who has mental health issues. No one should be telling you, tough it out, work harder. We should treat you with compassion and care and to provide you the services that you need. And then my other big priority for me is your math and science education. Most of the jobs out there are going to require you to be good at math and science. That's the reality of today. For me, I think, it's an issue that you have only 2 years of requirement for mathematics, but you have 3 years of requirement for social studies. There's a lot more jobs that require your math and science knowledge than your although the social sciences are important, what you're learning about the world, about cultures is important, but I want those to be, given that the UC system also requires 3 years, that's one of the things that's important to me. I want to make sure that you're adequately prepared to go compete with everybody else without driving you crazy, without putting so many stresses on you. I want to minimize busy work. Your homework should be high yield. There should be magic in the classroom. It shouldn't be about evaluation mostly. You should come to the classroom to have magic between you and the teacher. If it's about evaluation, you can learn at home and come and get tested at school. Thank you.
So my priorities around student wellness. There's a lot of stress in school. I know the stress and the pressure in the school. I've faced it. My sisters have faced it. I want to make sure there's enough mental health, emotional, social supports for you guys in school to help build that resiliency, to make you safe in the classroom, emotionally safe, because if you feel safe, you're better able to learn. If you're stressed out, it's really hard to learn, right? Because all that noise in your head drowns out what you're supposed to be learning, makes it harder to get stuff done, makes it harder to go to class, it makes it harder to stay in school, stay focused in school. So I really want to make sure that we support your guys' whole being. You are humans, you have entire world, and we want to make sure you have that support that you need so that you're safe here in the classroom to be able to learn in schools and in your extracurriculars, that you have the supports that you need to balance that. I also want to make sure that there's success for all students, that there's equity and inclusion. There's a lot of different learners out there. There's also a lot of different talents and strengths that you guys have, and I want to make sure that we have the opportunity to support your strengths, whether it's technology, whether it's going into the trades, whether it is going to community college, whether it's interning and learning about businesses. I want you guys to have all those opportunities and start having them while you're going through the school system. I also want to make sure that there's transparency and trust, that there's a clear line of communication across all levels within the school district so that you guys understand the decisions that are being made that are impacting you and how they impact you and how you can have a voice in that and have a say in those policies that are happening. And then lastly, but not least, is collaboration and community. So for those opportunities, I want to leverage the strengths of our community to give you guys those opportunities. I want us to come together to help you guys thrive and work towards success.
Thank you. Question 3.
All right, so this is a tough one. Y'all ready? So if there is a serious issue brought up to you by an individual in the school, how would you approach this issue?
So, serious can mean a lot of different things to different people. If it's, first of all, if it's of the highest magnitude that requires law enforcement, then we have to go there. We hope to resolve all issues at the lowest possible level. That's what, when I was in the military, that's what we were always taught. Resolve everything at the lowest possible level to prevent escalation. Because you hope that when people communicate, they can actually resolve the issues. But if something's serious to you, then it's serious to me. And if it's a matter of safety, we have to immediately remove you or change the situation so your safety is ensured first. That's the first thing we have to look at. But if it's other things that we can maybe resolve by communication, by having discussions, then we'll address it appropriately. But we can't ignore it. We can't brush it under the table. So first is your safety. Got to make sure your safety is ensured. Then we come down and get together and see what we can do, what resources we have to address the issue. But certainly, if something is serious enough that you're escalating it, then obviously we're going to take the steps, the necessary steps to address it.
So if it's serious, then I want to hear you out and what it is. I also want to make sure that I direct you to who can best help you with that situation. If I'm not best equipped to help you with that situation, then I'm going to make sure I find who you need to talk to and refer you to that person. So that would be law enforcement for safety issues. That can be a lot of different things. We have the crisis line if it's suicidality. Whatever the issue is and how serious it is, I want to make sure it's being addressed to the level that it needs to be addressed. Also, if it's issues around policies or if it's issues around school board issues, I, as one person, can't really make a decision as just one person because I'm part of a governing board. So I would want to make sure that you have the ability to express that in an open forum in a way that you're being able to be heard and it's actually being addressed, right? I do want to hear and I do want to listen, I do want to understand the issues, but I also want to make sure that something can happen about what you're expressing.
That's a great question, and I think it raises what's the role of a school board trustee. So, and this is something that I've learned a lot about since just being in this election. You know, what exactly does a trustee do? A trustee's job is leadership. So the trustee, the governing board, provides community oversight over the district to ensure that it is operating efficiently, that it's healthy, and that taxpayer funds are being used for the best interest of the students. And so as a trustee, when people come to me with concerns, serious, any concerns, my first job is to listen. And I'm absolutely committed to listening to everybody. I'll listen with respect, and I'll confirm that I understand the issue. The next step really kind of depends on what the concern is. The district is entrusted with running the schools. The concern might need to be relayed to the superintendent. It might need to be relayed to an assistant superintendent, and then they should have policies for handling those issues. Maybe the concern makes its way to the principal or a counselor or so on and so forth. I think it's also important as a trustee to follow up. So if you raise a concern, I want to be able to close the loop with you. Okay, so following up, was your concern addressed? Some issues might be appropriate for the governing board, and as Ariana mentioned, you know, as a trustee, you're one of 5, and you work collaboratively with your board in making decisions. And you do that in, there's a limited number of topics that you cover in a closed meeting, so most of it is done in a public meeting. And as trustees, we can say, hey, what are we doing about this? What are we doing about that? I think we need some focus here. So we can have those conversations too as a board. But I think it is also important, like I said, to close the loop. Make sure that our policies and procedures don't let things slip through the cracks. Make sure that if you raise a concern, you don't just kind of fade away. It doesn't just fade away and you wonder, what happened with that? Nobody got back to me. So, yeah.
Thank you. Question 4.
All right, question 4 is, what will you contribute to the school board?
I'm a social worker, so I really do think that I bring that experience as being a social worker, that lens, looking at a system, looking at a person's entire being and how they fit into the school system, the community, and how all the, I listen and I talk for a living. So I think I bring that, as well as I've worked across schools. When I was a case-carrying social worker, I had a caseload of up to 30 youth, ages 0 to 21. And so a lot of the times I'd be working in schools with them. I'd be attending their student success team meetings. I would be doing 504 plans with them, individualized education plan meetings with them. I enrolled kids in school. I would transfer them to different schools. I would see different educational settings, like alternative school settings. So I also have that experience. And then in my grad school experience and internship, I did school social work with middle schoolers. So I did one-on-one therapy with them. And I am a licensed clinical social worker. So I do have a lot of social emotional skills and clinical skills that I bring to the table, as well as working for Orange County Department of Education. I worked in safe schools and support systems, or safe schools and youth support. And so I worked across schools doing alcohol, tobacco, and other drug education, anti-bullying programs. I also did a crisis response. So I have a lot of experience across different schools, working with different students, working with a lot of diverse needs. And so I really do bring a lot of different experience in serving different youth, especially vulnerable populations and foster youth. So I bring that to the table, and I'm great at research, and I'm great at connecting folks to resources and really finding those partnerships and working across differences to find partnerships to help leverage our resources, because schools don't have a lot of resources, social services don't have a lot of resources, so I know how to build those partnerships to make sure we can find opportunities to sort of fill those gaps.
Great, thank you. As I mentioned before, I've got 2 kids in the schools. So I bring the perspective of somebody, a parent, of current students who is home when the kids get home, who hears about what they're doing in school, who knows the teachers, who knows the other kids in their classes. I believe that the school board should reflect the community it serves, and so I think it's important to have that voice on the board. I'm a volunteer in the schools. I'm on the Matthew Turner Site Council. I work with the teachers. I work with the kids. I've volunteered in other teachers' classrooms where my kids weren't in those classrooms. I have served as a Cub Scout leader, and so I've gotten to know kids in other elementary schools. I work with the soccer team. So I am active in the community, and I love our community. So I think those are all important attributes just from a personal standpoint. And then professionally, I am an attorney. I practice employment law. And as part of that, I counsel employers. I also have employee clients. And you know, the laws are very complex, and I help employers and employees navigate those laws. I engage in negotiations all the time. Mediations. We work to solve problems as lawyers. I know it doesn't seem like that, but the goal is to resolve problems. I think the board would benefit from somebody with that technical legal background. Now, I couldn't be an attorney for the school board. The school board has its own, the district has its own attorneys. I couldn't be an attorney for the district. But what I would bring is a knowledge of different issues that can come up. Lawyers are issue spotters. You know, we're able to look at a situation and say, hey, what about that? Wait, what about that? Maybe we haven't thought about that. And I bring that. I've also worked as an adjunct professor for adults who are studying to become paralegals. And through that, I've created classes, I've taught classes. And through that, I've really seen how important your primary and secondary education is to your success as an adult, especially when it comes to literacy and writing. I think those are hugely important skills to have as you enter adulthood. And before I went to law school, I was actually a manager at the phone company. Back then it was Pacific Bell SBC, now it's AT&T. I managed a unionized workforce of 411 operators and technician dispatchers. I only did that job for a few years, and that's actually what led me to go to law school, was dealing with employee issues. But I also bring that to the table. You know, I have experience working with unions, and I think that's an important experience for a board member to have. It's union negotiations are part of what a trustee, while they might not be in the negotiations, it's something that a trustee should be familiar with, I think.
Hello. Oh, thank you. Thank you for the question. So let me also start at a personal level. I'm, as I've already said, the father of 2 beautiful girls for whom I would do anything. They're the light, they're the reason I get up in the morning, they're the reason I breathe in the morning. And I'm sure the same goes for your parents. So for me, I know what you guys are going through. I understand. I live your life. I'm up at 3 a.m. sometimes with my daughter. I see some of you guys are on doing your AP World History at 3 a.m. You're on the same computer. I see some of you working hard. I understand what you're going through as a parent, as going through the same things as you're going through as your children. I have a 5th grader as well that I see what she's going through. I've actually read every one of your CPM math books from front to end. Math 1, Math 2, Math 3, pre-calculus. I've even read Larson, some of you who are in calculus. So the board makes decisions on your curriculum, right? They make decisions about your science, about your math. I've done every single science applies to my career: chemistry, physics, math, biology. I have to continue to be a student as a physician, as a doctor. Does anybody know what the word doctor comes from? It comes from the Latin docere. It means teacher. A doctor is a teacher. I teach every day. I teach my patients every day. I solve problems. I diagnose. I try to figure out what's wrong. So wouldn't it be nice to have someone on the board who understands what you're learning, who can evaluate your curriculum appropriately, who's actually in the game right now, continually learning new things about what's going on in medicine? I'm accountable in my field to learn as I go on. I have to do continuing education every quarter, that I have to keep learning. Just like you, I'm a student. I'm continually a student. I'm a teacher. On a professional level, again, being a physician, when I work at nights in Kaiser Walnut Creek, I'm responsible for 200 patients. I can get called on any of them at any moment. I have about 30 seconds to a minute to learn as much as I can from my colleagues to address serious problems. I've been trained to do that. I've been trained to address crises. Not to mention that I've done that as a family physician in the past, at all stages of life and all stages of care. I've also, for about 2 years, I was medical director for a Medi-Cal health plan, where we assured delivery of appropriate healthcare services to the children of San Joaquin. 170,000 children. I had to make a lot of determinations and decisions on when they got their healthcare. So some of those experiences, those life experiences I bring to the board, I bring for you. You know, again, for me, honestly, I would have to, this is not something that's going to enhance my resume or enhance my career. You know, I'm busy enough, but I want to do this for you guys because I see in you what I see in my children. And like I said, those 2 girls are the air that I breathe. Those 2 girls are the reason I wake up in the morning. Thank you.
Thank you. We are on question 5.
So question 5 is, what are your opinions on student involvement in policymaking? And are you planning to allow students to be involved in policymaking? And if so, how are you planning to implement that?
I love that question. Yes, yes, yes. So, you know, one of the first questions I have is, how do you think you can be involved in student policy making? I have some ideas, but one of the things that I would do as a trustee is ask you. I have a little anecdote. I'm a committee chair for my synagogue's education committee, and we had this huge issue. It was a big problem that we had, and it affected the teens in the synagogue. And you know, we really didn't know how to solve the problem, and it was this hugely stressful issue. And we decided, you know what, let's ask the teens. Let's ask them. They're the ones that are going to be affected by this. And our teen leaders got together, and they came up with a solution that none of the adults had thought of, and that's the solution we went with. So I think that your input is hugely valuable. I've seen it. You know, when I think about specific examples of maybe what we could do in the district, I know that we have student representatives that come and update the board as to goings on. Other districts allow students to stay and participate in discussion of agenda items. It doesn't necessarily need to be the students who are on the leadership team. You could even, you know, just open it up for application. Anybody who wants to serve in that role could. Of course, it'd have to be a limited number, but I know you've got stuff after, you know, in the evening, so some of you might not want to do that, but a lot of districts do permit students to stay and comment on agenda items, and you can even vote. Now, your vote can't be a deciding factor, a deciding vote, but you can have a vote on the record. And I think that's something that, you know, that's a specific thing that we could look into.
How many of you are 18 or are going to be 18 soon? Yeah, so I can send you to war if there was a draft, right? We could send you to war. So if we can send you to war, then you should have a say. Then you're adults. You should be treated with respect. You should be treated as adults. You should be treated with trust. that you're smart enough to make decisions. You are the final consumer. You're the end user of all this. Of all that we do, you're the end user. Nothing else matters, really. Everybody else in the process, yes, they're important, they have something to do, but in the end, everything comes down to you. You're the final product, and we all should be focused on you guys. You know, so that's what's important to me. And so, given that you're the end user, given that you're that the product that we're selling, all of us, is for you, then your input is important. Your input is important, and we have to treat you with respect. We have to treat you like adults. We have to treat you, given that, again, if you can vote and you can go to war, you should have a say. Thank you.
Yes. I definitely believe you guys should have a say in providing input, being a part of the decision-making process when it comes to policies and policies that are being made that directly impact you. Like Amy mentioned, there are other school districts that do have student board members that play an more active role on the student board. So that is an option that we can look into. There's also different committees. We can form a committee that has student presence, where there's an open dialogue between board members and a couple of board members and the students when it comes to policies and board decisions and things like that, things that are going to be coming onto board agendas. So those are opportunities, as well as open forums like this, where we can hear directly from you guys and talk to you. I know that Santa Ana Unified School District, they went in, and I know you guys, we've started doing these, the listen and learns, where they superintendent has been coming to the schools and talking to students, but providing opportunities for that so that it's more accessible from you guys. I want to know how you guys want to give your voice and come to the table and make it more easy for you guys to be able to attend that, whether it's via Zoom, whether it's another way that works better for you guys to be able to provide that input.
All right then, so for our next question, what revisions or improvements are you planning to implement if you join the student board? Oh, school board, my fault.
So as far as policy implementations, as I've mentioned, I personally believe that your math education, we need to increase that from 2 years to 3 years requirement. And social studies maybe bring down from 3 to 2. A lot of other systems do that. I don't want you to, so that's one policy that I would push for. And I don't know if there'll be agreement, and I'll try to work with my colleagues if I'm on the board to persuade them. Again, the jobs are there for you guys in math, sciences, computer sciences. Those are the things that you guys will have jobs of opportunities for. Even trade, even if you go into trades, you need to know how to calculate angles. You need to know trigonometry. You need to know geometry well. So those are really important. You know, I looked at the math scores, your SARC report, 36% of you pass the state standards. 64% at the 11th grade level are not passing the standards. At the elementary level in this town, we're at 55%. We're dropping down from 55 to 36. I need Johnny to do math. Johnny and Jane need to do math and learn their math well. It's really important to me. The second thing, some of the other policies, I have a lot of things that I want to talk about. I don't have a lot of time, but there should be more flexibility in your education. If some of you do better with independent study, we should promote that. We should let you do that. And we shouldn't penalize you if you do independent study and say, well, if you do independent study, you can't do band, or you can't do football, or you can't do basketball. We should have some flexibility for you. We should accommodate you guys and allow you to succeed. There was one student last year that I know, one of your friends, that she took advantage of the pandemic and did 2 years of high school in one. She's smart, but I think a lot of you are smart, just as smart. And she's in UC Davis doing amazingly well. We should do things that make sense for you, not just because someone wrote a policy and said, hey, let's do this. If we're going to, for example, some of the other things, I see you have to sign a contract with your AP classes that you can't drop them. They're calling this a college class, AP, right? Do you know when you can drop a class in college? Up until the 8th week in semester, a lot of semester places, you can drop a class. So we talk from both sides of our mouth. We say we're treating you like adults with college college kids, but then we treat you like kids, saying you can't do certain things. We have to have more flexibility for you guys. And so those are a couple of things. Is that the gist of your question about as far as the policies? Okay, thank you, thank you.
I want to take a look at the policies before I try to make changes to the policies. I also want to hear from you guys on what policies are important to you to be updated. So that's the approach that I would take. Is I'm a learner. I'm a lifelong learner. And so I really want to learn more about the policies. I want to take a look at how they align with some of our LCAP goals. I know equity and inclusion is a huge thing, and I want to see if it's actually interwoven into our policies. And if it's not, I want those policies to be updated to make sure that it's included so that we're addressing the diverse needs of all of our students within the school district.
So this is a great question, and I just kind of want to go back to the role of a trustee. And, you know, as a trustee works as one of five. And trustees work collaboratively to in setting priorities of the district. So as one of five trustees, you know, I myself can't come in and make policy changes. I can work collaboratively with the other trustees to do that. And I can, you know, obviously highlight issues of focus. One big issue of focus for me right now is safety. And, the first thing I have questions about are, what are our policies? I think that's a really important point. How are our policies communicated regarding safety? Do we have adequate training for our staff? Do we have adequate training for our teachers? Do our teachers feel that they, if there is something as awful as an active shooter situation, do our teachers feel like they can handle it? And that takes a lot of practice and a lot of training. And are we getting our people what they need? How are we addressing concerns? So, and also asking for input. Safety is, I think, a universal issue for us. And when I say safety, I mean, I'm including in that effects of social media. Social media poses some safety, emotional threats to us, I think. And what are we doing to address those? So the first thing I would look to is, what are our policies? What can we do better? Is anything slipping through the cracks there? And how can we fix it?
Thank you. Question 7.
All right. Would you support BHS going back to an open campus for lunch again?
I am sitting on the literal fence around your guys' campus on this topic. It's a hard one to say because I had an open campus. I also know that there were some dangers that I saw with us having an open campus. My youngest sister, did not have an open campus, and she's thriving. She's still thriving. So I do understand both sides of it. It was nice. It was really nice to have that freedom and that sense of responsibility and being able to leave campus, and you have to plan ahead to make sure you get back in time for 5th period. And it's nice to, you forget lunch, to be able to go get lunch or just to walk off of campus during that, just to get a break from being here in school. I understand that. I also know that there's some safety parameters within the community that pose some threats of kids maybe driving too quickly, rushing back to school, being tardy to class after lunch. And so those are things that I think need to be looked at, and maybe there's a happy medium. Is there a happy medium? Maybe we give that privilege to upperclassmen who have good attendance, who are maintaining their grades, where they are showing the responsibility, so we're going to give them more freedom. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so back in the 90s, we had an open campus, and I loved it. And I took an early bird class so that I actually had 2 hours for lunch, so I'd leave for 2 hours. I mean, yeah, I totally get it. It's great to be able to to take a break during the day. Now that I'm a parent, and it's not the 90s anymore, and I'm older. Unfortunately, I know this is an unpopular opinion, but I think there's some real problems with opening the campus back up. Safety's a big one. I mean, I remember, rushing to Taco Bell, even though I had my 2 hours, sitting there in the Taco Bell line and driving all around. And, we've got kids at Mary Farmer, and that pedestrian bridge is down. And there's kindergartners getting out, probably around the same time you guys are going to lunch. So I think that, we've got traffic issues. What's the impact on the surrounding area of having everybody out? Are kids going to come back on time, if at all? So I think it makes the most sense to stay here during lunch. You don't have that much time. Another thing also, and I know that you might laugh at this, but lunchtime is a time when you can foster your community. You can see your friends. You can make new friends. And I know that might sound kind of idealistic, but we had a rough few years, and rough probably is too light of a way to describe it. And I think that lunchtime is a time that we can be together for the good and the bad that brings. And so it probably makes the most sense to keep the campus closed. I'm sorry.
Thank you. How many of you have taken U.S. history or AP U.S. history? Okay. All right. I'm going to give you a quote. You tell me who it is, all right? Those who give up their essential liberties to purchase a little safety deserve neither. Who said that? One of your founding fathers. Come on, if you passed AP US, you got to know this. Ben Franklin. Ben Franklin. So we always in this country, we overreact to things. Somebody does something small, and then we overreact and try to. I was reading the articles. Some of the concerns were safety back in 2013 when the plan was implemented, and. Look, I trust you guys. If we're already letting you drive with 3 and 4 ton cars that are coming in the morning where you can run over anybody, you can run over kids in the afternoon, you can run over me in the morning when I'm running. I'm an old guy. Please don't run over me. But I'm not as fast as some of you I ran with in cross country this year. I can still run as an old guy. But please don't run over me. But anyway, but I trust you guys, and I think we have to trust you. If I keep treating you guys like caged animals and hoodlums, how are you going to behave? You're going to behave like caged animals and hoodlums. If I'm a teacher who makes you put your backpack in front of the classroom, which I was really astounded that one of my kids' classes did that, to accuse you of being cheaters before you even cheat, that's disrespectful. This goes to the idea of fostering trust and community. If we're going to foster an idea of trust and community where you guys all feel included, you guys feel like adults, then we need to trust you. Again, some of you are 18. I can send you to war. So I can send you to lunch. Thanks.
Thank you. Question 7. 8.
All right, question 8. What will you do to address drug use and vaping at Benicia High?
Don't do drugs, don't vape. No. So this is a huge issue. Back in the 90s, it was smoking, right? But it's gotten worse. Drugs are much more dangerous. There's some very, very, very deadly things out there right now. So, and I know this is a problem. I know it's a problem with the bathrooms. I think we really need to do some research on this. What I would do is encourage the district to see what other districts are doing, what has been successful. We need to really look at what works, and let's implement that. Do we need better monitors in the bathrooms? What's available? There's all kinds of new technology. Can we have better monitoring? What does that entail? And then I think also education. And I know that you receive, drug prevention education, dangers of vaping education, but I go back to what's effective. And, as somebody in the community, I'm not in the medical field, I don't have the answers to that. I would ask the experts, what's effective? I'd ask you, what do you need? You know, what can we do to have you guys make a different choice? So that's where I'd start. I think that's an important issue, and it's a serious one.
I have seen your smoke alarms go off multiple times this year because someone was vaping. I've heard some of you hold it during the day because you're intimidated about going to the bathroom. You know what happens when you hold it? You can get urinary tract infections. You can get kidney infections. You know, I don't want that to happen to you. Plus, and then some kids are not even hydrating themselves for the fear of having to go to the bathroom. You're going to go through hot days dehydrated when you need to learn, when you need to understand things. In my day, unfortunately, whatever you may think of it, there was no anti-smoking rule. We actually had kids smoke in high school when I was a high school kid. We called it the smoke hole. The smokers went and smoked in their little spot, and everybody was happy. But we have decided as a society that we don't tolerate smoking in our public buildings. We don't tolerate any of those things. We can't condone those. So my feeling is, you vape, you're out. You vape, you're out. You smoke in the bathrooms, you're out. Now, we have an obligation to educate everybody. We offer alternate education. We offer online education until that individual goes through a smoking or drug education program, and then they can be reincorporated into the community as a whole. You shouldn't suffer. You shouldn't hold your urine because someone wants to vape. It's unconscionable. You shouldn't be intimidated about that. I want you to feel safe. I want you to feel safe. I know what it feels like. I tell you, when I was a kid, I remember some of the tricks that kids used to play in the bathrooms. They do crazy things. I went to use a soap dispenser, and guess what came out? Urine. That was the things that kids did. I know, kids do crazy stuff sometimes, but it's not the majority. It's just tiny, they think they're funny. But a lot of you suffer. We can't let the crazy antics of some kids affect the rest of you. So, again, we have an obligation to educate everybody. We can't just throw someone out and say, go away, but we'll offer them alternate education until they go through smoking education, until they go through drug education. And let me just say one more thing to you guys. Please, 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 and emphasize this to everybody. I was on the Opioid Safety Coalition of San Joaquin County. One of the things that we saw as we tried to limit as physicians, a lot of people were on narcotics. A lot of your parents, a lot of relatives doctors were giving them narcotics for chronic pain. And as we stopped giving people narcotics, guess what happened in the communities? Guess what went up? What's that drug that you hear about? That can kill you instantly, make you stop breathing. Fentanyl, and a lot of the other stuff, a lot of the other crap that somebody will offer you may be laced with fentanyl. Fentanyl we measure in medicine in micrograms. Morphine and the others are in milligrams. Micro, you know what micro is? 1/1000th, right? Tiny amounts we give in fentanyl for pain. A little bit of fentanyl can kill you. These medicines, these opioids, they can go to your respiratory centers and make you stop breathing. I was astounded to see that we're now offering Narcan to everybody in this community. That's how serious. Do not ever take anything from anybody. You don't know if it's laced with fentanyl. They think it's funny, but it can kill you. Thank you.
Okay, drugs are bad. I would really like to foster a community where drugs are not viewed as cool. I think that when we look at society, we see things in our media, and media sort of indicates sort of where we're at in society and culturally with things, right? So when first it was e-cigarettes, right? And then vaping took the scene. And when it happened, it was around like YouTube was like blasting off. And when YouTube was blasting off, you see a lot of these social media influencers were using it, and they were pushing it because they're like, yeah, it's safe. This is perfectly okay. So then it started getting targeted to youth because they're like, oh, well, if they're doing it, they're saying it's safe, but meanwhile, it's not actually safe. And there's more and more things that are being put into vape pens and all vaping and all of that. And from that, I think to combat that, you really have to do a lot of awareness and education around it, a lot of media campaigns. You need to call out when you see things and have this communication. So I would like to partner with the Solano County Office of Education and their tobacco use prevention programs, because I know that they have a lot of the Don't Believe the Lies media campaigns these past couple years. And I also want to partner with you guys on coming up with strategies on how do we squash this in our schools, right? Because it's directly impacting you. It's unsafe for everyone. It's not a great environment. it's really not helpful, and really the best way to stop it is to prevent it. But then once it's not happening, having that restorative practices around it to be able to do the education and learn and and do the education around it and learn and make sure that we come up with creative solutions on how to combat it.
Thank you. And this is our last question of the preset questions. And we have about 5 minutes.
So y'all doing pretty good so far. So basically, what is strengths you see in our school district, and what is areas you see we need to work on?
Strengths and then areas to work on.
Strengths. I want to shout out to my 2 band friends here. They did an awesome, my drum major, Lily, our drum major, not mine, our drum major, Lily. I think of Lily like my own kid because I've been all their band stuff. They did an awesome job representing your school in New York City in the St. Patrick's Day Parade. I was there. They marched for 3 straight miles while playing their instruments. Not only did they do an amazing job, us parents, a lot of us, we ran along with them in New York City, right along Central Park. In fact, there was a place where we had a barricade, and my wife and I and a couple of other parents, we ran around the police barricade, almost got in trouble to catch up with them. They marched, and I saw parents, people of other, who were not related to us taking pictures of these kids. They were so impressive. Our band program is impressive. Our music program is impressive. Miss Chrisman, Mr. Hannah, Mr. G in the elementary school level, they're very impressive. Your English school, I look at numbers. I'm an analytical guy. Okay, I can sit here and be a cheerleader and say, yeah, everything's great. But look, I look at your numbers. Look at the SARC report. The SARC report is for everybody to see, the accountability report. We do well in English. You guys know the numbers? 63% of you meet standards for English and language arts. The state average is 47. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. And it actually improves from elementary to high school. So kudos, shout out to your English teachers. Math, not so good. What do you guys think? I told you the number, right? 36. We're sending 64% of you without being competent in mathematics onto the real world. What's the state average? 33. I think we can do better than 3%, more than state average, if we pride ourselves on being an elite school. Also, I would say then the math numbers go down from elementary to the high school level. So we need to work on that. So that's important to me. Science, we're a little better, 37 versus 29 for the state. I know some of your science teachers. I am so impressed with Mr. Sanatz, for example. Not only is he a great teacher, he also is a great cross-country coach. Wonderful. I see the way he works with the kids. I was in the cross-country. I ran with you guys sometimes. So I see there's a lot of good work. There's a lot of good work to be done. But we can do improvements. Some of the things that I'd like to do, I'd like to get parent involvement more as far as mathematics. We have a lot of techies here that they can help out. I can help out. I can teach you just about anything in math. I've actually offered my services sometimes, and I haven't had many takers. But if you guys need help with math, call me, talk to Hannah. But there's a lot of us who are willing to help. I know the classes are overwhelmed, but a lot of you, and it's hard to individually teach everybody to make sure you understand. We have to make sure you guys understand everything. Another idea is we should start considering teaching to mastery, teaching to proficiency, instead of just letting you move along with a C when you don't really get it. You can get a C in math and not know what the heck you're doing, right? So I want to make sure you guys understand what you're learning. So those are some of the things that I think we can improve on.
I work in Contra Costa County, and the first thing I hear when I say, hey, yeah, my school district is Benicia Unified is, wow, those are really great schools. So we're well known throughout the Bay Area for having great schools, and you guys are a direct reflection of that because you go out into the community, you go out into the world, and they see that. And I'm really happy to say that I'm from Benicia, and I'm from Benicia. I graduated from Benicia High School. You guys have great arts. You have great classes, great teachers. It's really just a great academic opportunity, and I can say from experience going to college that I excelled in college based on the foundation that I got going to Benicia High School. So I do really do think that we excel in academics, in arts, in a lot of the different extracurriculars that we have, and the opportunities that we have in sending band to go and perform in St. Patrick's Day's parades and other things. I marched in the Rose Parade. So those were great opportunities. I remember going with the middle school down to Southern California and then marching at Disneyland. Like, those are great things that not everyone in California gets the opportunity to do, and I appreciate that we get to do it here. And I love coming to your guys' shows. Like, I'd rather pay to come here than go to San Francisco to see a show, because your drama department and everything else is amazing. Advanced dance is amazing. In terms of some areas of improvement, I would say that there are huge disparities in the achievement gap between those who are low-income people of color within Benicia, and I don't know that there's as many opportunities for all of our learners, for those who are in special education and and maybe have emotional behavioral needs and things like that, or just are different learners. So I think there's a diverse set of needs and diverse set of learners and diversity within our community that is not recognized always in school, and I don't know that those needs are being met. So that's an area I think is of improvement.
I'll try to be brief. I know we're low on time. Areas of great strength, I'm going to say it's our teachers and our staff. At Matthew Turner, I'm on the site council. I don't think I quite appreciated just how much they care until I was on site council and I got to hear about the things they're doing in their classrooms and the innovation that's going on. And they go home and they think about you and they think about your classes. And for our teachers and our principals and our staff, this isn't just a job, it's a mission. And I see that. And that's a huge strength. I felt that, looking back on my time here and in Benicia schools, I'm still close with my teachers, my former teachers. And that's an amazing thing. A teacher will change your life. And we have people in this district who will do that. As far as what to improve, I think that we are at a point right now. We're coming out of COVID. We have a new superintendent who is very energetic and who wants to listen. I'd like to continue in that vein. I'd like to increase transparency. We need to have trust in our leadership. And I feel like we need to make sure that we respect everybody, no matter who you are. No matter who you are, you deserve respect. And we need to respect people who have diverse opinions, who have diverse experiences, and I'd like to see more of that. Just an example, our new superintendent, he held a parent forum at the middle school to look for a new principal, and he spent an hour and a half and waited until every question was answered, and that is what I'd like to see more of here.
The formal questions. I wanted to leave a tiny bit of cushion so that students can speak to you individually. Like we can kind of do it in a more intimate manner. You can come down to the floor and students are allowed to speak one-on-one with candidates if you would like and have your questions answered that way. Otherwise, we are officially adjourned.